Hello, everybody. Welcome and happy Halloween. I was going to wear my witch hat for you, but it kind of didn't work well on camera. It is so great to have you here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come and play with us in Photoshop. We are going to be having fun today. Let's take a peek at what we're going to be making. Look at this cool thing. We're going to be animating a still photo and turning it into a happy haunt. I just think that is so much fun. So let's talk about how we're going to be doing this. So I call this a spooky portrait or a happy haunt, right? It's like spooky, but not like terrifying. Anyway, we're going to be using a couple of images that are free to license from Adobe Stock's free collection. So I've got links to those in the description down below if you want to download those, license them and download them and follow along later. You are welcome to do that. So you will need a Creative Cloud subscription to be able to license them for free, but they're super fun. So links are below. So the first thing we're going to be doing is generating the closed eyes. So we're just working with like a regular portrait. So we're going to generate closed eyes using Photoshop's generative fill. Then we're going to be using the neural filters to create a version of the eyes that is looking to the left and another version that's looking to the right. And then we're going to use Photoshop's frame animation timeline to make it look like it's haunted, like it's alive. And I just think this would be so fun. If you have one of those digital frames, I guess I'm assuming they could play an animated GIF. I've never tried it. I don't have one of those, but I think this would be a super fun project for one of those or, on your phone or just wherever. I think they're great. So that's a look at how this is going to go down. Let's check in. I've been looking in the comments and I see we've got people here from all around the United States. And some people are even tuning in from here in Nebraska, just down the road from me. So that is super fun. We've got people tuning in from Belgium, Bangladesh, India, Canada. Just so fun. I love seeing this here. We've got friends in the house, Dave Clayton, hello, Erica and David from CreativePro. This is just so fun. So it's wonderful. I would love to know how many of you have ever animated with Photoshop before? I'm guessing not a lot. The few people I've seen mention it say not at all or maybe using a different program, but not Photoshop. So that is very cool. That's perfect. That's what we're going to be looking at today. So that said, let's dive in. Now, I should tell you that this is the image that you will find linked below from Adobe Stock. And I had some fun with it and turned it into this. So how did I do that? You can use it as it is just here, but I wanted her to have a little witch hat. So I went ahead and made one using generative fill. And so you'll see how that works when we generate the closed eyes for the blinks. So I just used that same process to generate a witch hat here. And I used the crop tool with the generative expand option right here. I used that to extend the canvas vertically so I had room to make the witch hat. So, but you can use the image just as it is. That is no problem, but this is what you're going to see me working with. The other image that we're using just to have something to paste this into is this image here. This is also from Adobe Stock's free collection. It is also listed, linked down below in the description. And you could work just on the portrait by itself. You don't have to put it in anything else if you don't want to. You could also just make your own scene. You could search Adobe Stocks collection for a frame if you want to like build your own scene. Like I have an example here of another one that I got. So this was another image. This background came from Adobe Stock. I think it was cut off. So it was a horizontal image. So I extended it to make it vertical. And then I put in this frame here, and then I put the composite into the frame. So those are all viable options. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's, whatever suits your purposes. But I kind of liked the idea of showcasing the animation inside some sort of scene like this. So let's talk about how we're going to get this. So I'm going to use my version that has our little witch hat, and I'm just going to select all of it by pressing Command or Control A to put marching ants around the whole thing. And then I'm going to copy it, Command or Control C. And I'm going to be pasting it into this frame here. So we want to be able to select that. So one way to do that is to use Photoshop's quick selection brush or quick selection tool. The keyboard shortcut is W, because this is one of those wizard-like tools from Photoshop. So it has a intelligent kind of automated side to it. So it's just a brush, like any brush. I can change the size using the left and right bracket keys that are right next to the letter P on your keyboard. So with that, I can come in here and just kind of click and drag, and you can see that it puts marching ants around the frame. Now, it may not be perfect. You can see it kind of included the bottom here. So I can edit this by holding down the Option or Alt key, which will put this tool into subtraction mode. And now I can come and brush along this bottom to get rid of it. And it also included this little piece of the pumpkin. So I'm going to hold down that Alt or Option key and use my little brush to brush over, whoops, I went too far, any areas. This is really hard because my little cursor thing is the same size as my brush. So it's kind of tricky to see on my screen. But I'm just going to go in here and holding Alt or Option, I can subtract any pieces out like that. And if I really want to be perfect about it, I could also come in here with the new selection brush tool and really refine this even more. So this tool works basically the same way. It is a paintbrush that's going to let you paint or subtract to your selection. You can add to or subtract from. But what's funny about it is there's two things that make it different than that quick selection brush. One is, as you can see, it's showing our selection with a magenta overlay now. So we're not looking at marching ants anymore. We're looking at a magenta overlay. So this is the selection brush tool. It is part of the lasso family, strangely enough. So the keyboard shortcut is L. And you'll see that your existing selection turns into a magenta overlay. And the other thing is that it works like a brush, but it doesn't have the sort of automated wizard-like feature. So it doesn't snap to anything. So you can freely paint with it, which is really great for some of these spots where Photoshop was being snappy to things that I didn't want it to be snappy to. So for example, right here, if I want to subtract some of this, I'm going to still hold down that Alt or Option, and then I can just brush away parts that I want to remove. Seem like right here. And if I really want to get this little piece in here, I can make my brush really tiny. And then not holding Alt or Option, I can add this little piece in. And because it doesn't have the snappy wizard-like settings of the quick selection tool, it won't snap to stuff. So it lets you get a clean edge where the wizard-like tools might have struggled a little bit. So anyway, I'm not going to worry about making this super perfect because I don't want to take all day doing it, but I think this will be good like that, right? That looks good. All right, so The magenta is the same thing as marching ants, but if it makes you feel better, to get back to your marching ants, you can just switch to a different tool. So I'll tap V for the move tool, and there's my marching ants again. All right, so we've copied our little witch, and now we're gonna paste her into our selection. So to do that, we're not gonna just press Command V, because that would just paste it, but we wanna paste into our selection. So to do that, I need to come up here to the edit menu, and I'm gonna not just paste. Oh no, I'm going to paste special. And specifically, I'm going to paste into. And when I do that, two things happen. Photoshop pastes it in, but also Photoshop builds a mask based on the selection that was active in that moment when we pasted it in. And it's smart enough to not link them. So you'll notice over here in the layers panel, there's no link here, which means I can press Command or Control T, and I get a transform box around the portrait, and I can scale it down separately from the mask. So that's a really important distinction, right? I don't want to scale the mask that is surrounding it. So I don't want to scale this here. I just want to scale the actual portrait. And that's possible because they are unlinked. And that happens automatically in this case. We can always link them if we want to by just clicking in that little empty pocket area right here. See that little chain link? That means that the mask and the thumbnail are connected. But if I don't want that, I can just click, oops, can click to turn it off. There we go. All right. And I can see now that the selection was not very great. So thankfully, it's really easy to edit by clicking on the mask over here. And I'll switch back to my, I'll just use my regular brush tool, and I can paint with black or white. So in this case, I want to reveal more of this area. So I'm going to paint with white. And if you didn't know how to draw a perfectly straight line with the brush tool, the trick is that you click where you want to start, and then you shift click where you want to end. And Photoshop will make a straight line in between. All right, so that looks really good so far. Yeah, I think one of the other things that I like to do when I paste something into a scene like this is I typically add a levels adjustment layer or curves or whatever you want to do, just to kind of adjust the contrast a little bit. So I'm going to do that really quickly by just clicking this little yin yang button down here to make an adjustment layer. And I'm going to choose levels because I like it. And then I'm going to just dampen some of these highlights. So I'm dragging this slider here to reduce the amount of highlights and reduce the shadows a little bit. And you'll notice that right now, this is affecting everything in the image, right? Like it's even affecting this background here. I just want it to affect the same areas as this mask right here. So I'm actually going to drag this mask and drop it up here holding the Alt or Option key. And Photoshop's going to ask me if I want to replace the existing layer mask. And I'm going to click yes. And now we can see that this adjustment, look at that, it's only happening within the photo frame. And what's nice is because this is an adjustment layer that operates kind of like a cloud, it's going to just float above at the top of our layers panel. And its adjustment is going to rain downwards, and it's going to affect every layer that is appearing within this frame. So that means when we generate closed eyes or whatever, it's all going to happen in that. That adjustment's going to apply to all of it. Okay, how's everybody doing? Let me check in here. What questions does anybody have? Okay, so Joe is asking, Joe is curious if an animated GIF will autoplay in Instagram. I can tell you, Joe, it does not. That is super annoying. But I can show you how to export. Oh, I don't know if I've tried this from a frame animation, but we'll try it. We'll try it today when we get there. I'll show you how you can export an MP4 directly from Photoshop's timeline. And if somehow that doesn't work, there are converters online that you can convert a GIF to an MP4 and then you can post it on Instagram. So yeah, it's got to be an MP4 on Instagram, which is a major bummer. Any other questions? Uh, this is new. So Sarah says that this is new to me. That's great. I'm so happy that I could introduce you to this. And I think it'll be a lot easier than you think, especially a frame animation is super simple. And it's basically the same thing as just utilizing like layer comps. So you'll see what I mean in a minute. In the meantime, go ahead and keep your questions coming, and we'll come back to them. So I'm gonna pop back over to my desktop, maybe. We'll go back to our desktop. There we go. And let's keep rocking here. All right, so the next thing we want to do is we need to generate a version of her portrait where her eyes are closed. So we're going to be using Photoshop's generative fill for that. So I'm going to zoom in on this so we can see what's happening. I'm going to target the layer that has her eyes, and I'm going to press M for the marquee tool. And I'm just going to draw a little selection like this. And I'm looking for this little floaty pop-up thing. So if you don't see this, you've got to have sometimes you have to have a selection active. That kind of triggers Photoshop to pull that up. If you still somehow don't see it, go to your window menu and choose contextual taskbar. That is the name of that little floating panel. And here we're going to click where it says generative fill. And then it's going to ask us what we want to generate. So we just use simple nouns or adjectives to describe this. So I'm going to say closed eyes. And I like to add the words at rest. And I don't think you really have to, but the idea is we don't want closed eyes that are like scrunched or, I don't know, doing something weird. I just want them to be at rest. So I think maybe that's going to be helpful. We'll see. We're going to cross our fingers now and roll the dice by clicking generate. And we'll see what happens. So Photoshop is taking our request. It's going out to the cloud and it's going to come back and check it out. So here in our properties panel, we have 3 different eye versions. And we can flip through here and see which we like better. So I'm going to toggle this layer on and off by clicking on the little eyeball to just see. And I'm not worried about the eyebrows and all of that. We're going to mask this so we just have the eyes. So what I'm really looking for here is which pair of eyes is going to look the most like hers. Maybe this one. Those are some super long lashes. I want those lashes. And you know what? If we don't really like any of them, we can pick one. And if we go to this little 3-dot menu, we can choose generate similar. And then we'll see. I mean, they're all really similar. We can also just hit generate again. So Photoshop's going to give us another 3 options to see if maybe we like any of those better. Oh, and you know what? I had it turned off. So it generated open eyes, which is not what we want at all. So let's try this again. Generate similar. That's funny. So it actually read the live pixel data of the base layer there. So we got to make sure we have the layer on, and then we're going to regenerate. Here we go. Here's some other versions. Yeah, I don't know. I think I like this first one the best. So I'm going to choose it. All right. So this is all living in the properties panel. So I can select it just by clicking on it here. And these other ones I can remove by clicking the little trash can. You don't have to do that, but if you generate like a gazillion versions, you have to know that all of those generations are going to live in your document, and they obviously would increase the file size. All right, now looking at this, if I toggle it on and off, those are not her eyebrows, right? So what we want to do is take advantage of this mask that's already built in here. So when we have a layer mask, that just like Halloween, just like people might be wearing tonight when they go trick or treating, a mask can hide parts of your face, right? So it might hide everything, but maybe there's little holes cut out so you can see. A mask in Photoshop works the same way. It's almost like erasing parts of a layer, but better because the parts are not gone, they're just hidden. So if we think about if you wear a mask that is black, that might obscure your face. And if you have any clear areas, that's going to show through. So the way that this works is the same. So the black areas of the mask are hiding parts of that layer, and the white areas are, if you think of them like being clear, they're allowing it to show. Or if you think about being in a room where you flip the lights off and the room gets dark, you can't see, but if you turn the lights on, you can. So right now, this whole layer is blacked out except for this generated little area of her eyes. And what we want to do is hide the areas that it generated over like her eyebrows, for example, because when she blinks, she needs to have the same eyebrows. So we want to get rid of the generated eyebrows here. So in that generated layer, we want to make sure that the little white highlight is not around the thumbnail. Instead, we want to click to put it around the mask. And we want to turn that layer on so we see the closed eyes. And we're going to press B for our brush tool. And I'm going to make the brush big using those left and right bracket keys next to the letter P. And I'm going to make sure that it's soft. So another way to do this, the longhand way, is up here from the brush menu. If you click this little caret, that will pop this open, and there's a slider here for size and for hardness. So I'm just going to come in here and I'm using black paint over here on my toolbar. Black paint, remember, is going to turn off the lights and hide anything we don't want to see. So I've got black paint and I've got my brush, and now I'm going to paint over these eyebrows that are not hers. Now, if I go too far and paint the eyes back in, that looks weird. So we can fix it by pressing the X key on our keyboard, and you'll notice that gives us white paint. And white paint will turn the lights back on in whatever areas we want. So I'm going to switch back to black paint and paint her actual eyebrows back. And I can see my brush is too big because it's painting all kinds of things. All right. So I also noticed that we had some funny things happening, that Photoshop like regenerated her ears a little bit. So basically, I just want to get rid of every extra little area that's not really hers. So let's toggle this layer on and off. It's looking pretty good, but I can see that it's like generated her cheek here and the bridge of her nose. So I want to get rid of that. I'm just basically painting over everything that's not the actual closed eyelids. And one way you can check yourself is if we, let's see, option click, yeah, on the mask. So I'm option or alt clicking right on the layer mask. we can actually now see the mask overlaid on top of our image. So I can see all the areas where I might want to buff this out, right? So I'm using that black paintbrush and I'm just gonna come, I don't want any of these hard edges here, none of this. This is clearly not her eyes. You can see like what a fine artist I am here, right? Doesn't that just look like perfection? Okay. So that looks a little better. Now let's see how this is looking. So again, I'm going to Alt or Option click on the mask. And now let's toggle it on and off. And isn't it wild how actually good that looks? Even though it's like not her same eyes, I'm just always kind of want to get the shadow back here. I'm always amazed by that. So I think that's going to be good enough for what we are doing. We don't want to spend an eternity here, but hopefully you get the idea. So we generated new closed eyes, and then we used the layer mask that automatically comes with those generated eyes, and we hid a little bits of it to help those new eyes blend in a little bit better. So let me see what questions you guys have in the chat. Oh, I don't see any new comments. I guess everyone was really tuned in. So that's good. That's super good. All right. Well, we can go back to my desktop here. And if you have more questions, then you just pop them in there and I'll get them in the next little break. All right. So we have our closed eyes. So here in the layers panel, I'm going to rename this layer by double clicking right here. And we're going to call it, let's call it blink, I guess. Whatever you want to call it, blink, closed eyes, or you could leave it. But all I did was just double click on the name of that layer. And then you could type in a new name and hit enter. All right, so we have the blink. And so we can hide it now, right? Because we're good. So next thing we're going to do is come down here to our actual portrait layer. And I don't remember actually if I duplicated this first or made it separate. Let's try it. Let's try duplicating it first. So we have our regular portrait. So I'm going to just rename this and call it portrait. And now we're going to make a version of the portrait that is looking to the side. And then we'll make another version of the portrait that's looking to the other side. Now, weirdly enough, I've not had good luck doing this with generative fill. I also haven't tried it this way recently. So if you want to try this the same way we made the closed eyes, you could try and you could type in like eyes looking to the left or whatever. But previously, when I've done that, with earlier versions of Photoshop's generative fill models, it like made totally different eyes. Like it did not even attempt to make them look like it was the same set of eyes. So maybe that has changed. I honestly haven't tried it. But instead, I'm going to show you my workaround for that, which is a totally different technique, which relies on Photoshop's neural filters, which a lot of people don't even know exist. So let's give it a whirl. First thing, we're going to duplicate this portrait layer. So I'm going to press Command or Control J to make a copy. And let's just double click and we'll just call this left, I guess. All right, so with the left version selected, we're going to come up and choose Filter, Neural Filters. Oh yeah, so we could have output this to a different layer, but now we don't have to. Okay, the one that we want here, there's a lot of different neural filters, which are different filters with some AI built into them. The one that we want is here. It's called Smart Portrait. So we need to switch it on by clicking the little switch here. And now if we look over here, we can see some options, one of which is called eye direction. And there's a little button up here to auto balance the combination of whatever you do here. And that is great. But in this case, I don't think I want it. I don't know. I've tried it both ways and it seems to work kind of the same either way. But I feel like this auto balance combination, it kind of works to like tone down settings so that everything looks nice together. But like, I don't want Photoshop throttling my request here. I want those eyes all the way to the side. So I'm just going to turn that off. I think it works either way, but I'm just turning it off. All right, so with eye direction, I'm going to take the slider and just click it and drag it all the way to the left, and then we just wait. And we cross our fingers. And Photoshop is going to take a while, apparently, to do this. It's great on a live stream. There it goes. All right, so it went not super far left, did it? Well, this is as far as we can make it go. So we're gonna have to roll with it. I'm just trying to check the chat. We're gonna roll with it. And we're gonna output to the current layer. So I'm gonna go ahead and click OK because we already duplicated it. So there we are. Now, if we toggle this on and off, we have a version where her eyes have moved. And for whatever reason, it always does this. It kind of darkens. I don't know if it's showing up for you on your screens, if it's coming through on the broadcast, but it kind of shifts the color a little bit every time I ever run this neural filter. So I'm going to come in here to the mask and I'm going to fill the whole thing. I'm going to fill the whole thing with black. So I've got this selected and I just realized my marching ants have been here the whole time. So I deselect those too. If you still have your marching ants, you can get rid of them by pressing Command or Control D. All right, so I want to fill this whole mask with black. And because black is my current foreground color, I can use Option or Alt Delete. So basically, I just 100% hid her eyes that are looking to the left. And I'm going to just paint them back in now with white paint. And that will just fix that weird color shift that Photoshop had going on. So that is how that is done. So again, if I Alt or Option click on the mask, you can see that this whole layer is hidden. And again, I'm just revealing the parts of her eyes that I want to reveal. And I can Option or Alt click again to view the image as a whole. All right, so this is left. And this also happens whenever I've run these neuro filters, it just kind of darkens everything. So I want to bring the shine back to her eyes. We can see that they're this beautiful, kind of a hazily brown color, and I want to bring that back. So what I'm going to do is create a new blank layer by clicking this little button down here. And I'm going to grab my paintbrush with white paint. And I'm just going to paint, and this is going to look weird, but I'm going to paint not at 40%. I'm going to come in here and paint just a little like white right on top of the iris in her eyes. And that looks spooky. So, but that's good for right now. Then in the layers panel, I'm going to adjust the blend mode to, let's see, soft light. Do you see the difference that that made? There is without it, and there is with that little painted adjustment. So it's just white paint on a normal layer, but it just puts the light back in her eyes. We would want to use a soft brush for that. And if it's, too heavy handed, you can always come to the top of the layers panel and dial down the opacity a little bit. So I'm going to just call this like, brighten. All right. So that's a little bit of a brighten. Sometimes you might find that like it put this weird dark shadow here. So maybe I make another new layer and we could clone it and all of that. But honestly, I'm not going to bother. I'm going to use my paintbrush and I'm going to Alt or Option click in this area to sample that color. And I'll reduce my opacity down to like 20 or 30%. And I'm just going to paint over this to just get rid of it. Actually, I might sample this color. I don't know why it darkens her eyes so much. This is not all, totally required, and you may not have this experience. Your image may work better. But for me, this was kind of annoying. All right, so what do we have here? We have, this is an eye whiten layer. This is the brightening of the irises, and this is the look to the left. So what I'm going to do to just clean up my layers panel is I'm going to select all three of those things. So I'm clicking on the left version of the portrait and shift clicking on my eye whiten, and I'm just going to put them all in a folder. So I'll press Command G or Control G to group them, and I'm going to name it left. That way, when we animate this, we only have to turn on one thing in our layers panel to show the left. Then I'm going to turn it off. So here's a way we can test. Oh, and I see another thing I want to change. Do you see this little bit of her eye right here? When we turn on the left, it's editing that. So I'm going to add a layer mask to that folder. So down here at the bottom of the layers panel, I'm going to hit the mask button, or I guess we can twirl it open and we can just go back to here. Let's do that. We don't have to add a new mask. We'll go back to our left mask here. And I want to get rid of this. So it generated whatever that little part of her eye is called. It generated a new one. And it sometimes changes the lash line and everything. So we just want to put it back. And if I toggle on this whole folder, we can see where it's made changes and we can edit it. All right, I'm going to quit obsessing now, or we're going to be here forever. Okay, let's get rid of that left. I'm going to hide it. We'll go back to this portrait layer. I'm going to duplicate it one more time by pressing Command or Control J. And this time, let's call it right. And we're going to go back to the neural filters. Okay, so everyone following along, we generated closed eyes. That's on a layer right here. We called it blink. Then we generated a left-looking version using neuro filters. We made some little adjustments, touch-ups, whatever. Put all that in a folder called left. Now we're just going to repeat it for the right. So we start by duplicating that base layer. And then we're going to go back to filter, neural filters. Oh, Fred is here. Yay. Welcome, Fred. And Studio C says, I love this so much. Well, I love that you love it. And I love that you're all here and we're having fun. Happy Halloween. Yay. All right. Where are we? What? That's not what I want. There we go. We want just this duplicated. All right. Filter, neurofilters. Oh, you know what? I see what I did. I see what I did. Stop. I reran the same neurofilter. This is what happens when I try and talk and read comments at the same time. And I hope I didn't just crash Photoshop. Okay, so whoops, let me do that. Here's what I did. Don't do this. So I went to filter and I just hit neurofilters right here from the top. What that does is it reruns the last filter with the last settings. So I didn't mean to do that. We don't want to do that. We want to rerun them with new settings. So you want to make sure you're choosing neurofilters down here, the one that's got the little ellipses after it. So we'll click on that because we want to get back here where we have to click to enable Smart Portrait. And then we're going to come back. We'll turn this off again. Little cheeky booger. Okay, turn that off. And then we're going to come down here again to eye direction. And we're going to drag the slider all the way to the right. And for whatever reason, I think it kind of does a better job on this one. I don't think I had to do as much touch up on the eyes when they were looking to the right. Who knows why? I think it has to do with the shadows from the lighting. Okay, so here we are. We're gonna output this to current layer because we already made a copy. If we hadn't done that, you could tell it to make a new layer or a new masked layer, but we'll just go to our current layer because I already made it. And where are we? There we go. Let's also rename this here. We'll call this right. And again, it darkened the whole image ever so slightly. So I'm going to just hide the whole stinking thing. So I'm going to click to select the mask, right? Not the layer. And with black as my active foreground, I'm going to press Option or Alt Delete. So I've just hidden, we've masked the entire layer that was looking to the right. And now I'll come back with my paintbrush with white paint now. Remember that the X key will exchange your foreground, background colors. So now I want white paint on top. And now I can come in here and paint her eyes to the right. And if I'm careful, I can maintain her lash line and everything. So again, over here, this is kind of, it's weird, right? We're just moving her eyes and it's kind of weird. All right, so let's back up and now let's toggle that visibility on and off so we can check our work. So that's the little eyeball right here. So I'm going to turn it on and off. Okay, and yeah, it's not perfect, but I'm not going to obsess about it too much. But let's hide a little more of this. Okay. So we'll call this good. But I am going to put the lights back in her eyes because again, they got just super dark. So I'm going to make another blank layer. Have my paintbrush. I'm going to press D for my default colors and then X to flip them so we've got white on top. And I'm just going to come in and paint literally a big ugly line like that right over her irises, and we'll change the blend mode to maybe overlay looks better. And I might, whoa, double it, but that's way too strong. So now I'm going to tone it down. So I just duplicated that layer so I have two instances of it. So these are the whiten 2. Oh no, Brighten 2, and this is the original Brighten. And I reduced the opacity of this one here. I just felt like 1 wasn't strong enough by itself. But 2 is like way too much. So I don't know, something like this. All right, so now we've got these 2 layers plus this layer. Again, we want to put them all in a group. So I'm going to select the rightward looking one, and then I'll shift click the top of the stack that I want to put into a group. And then the keyboard shortcut to group it is just what you might think it is. It's Command or Control G for group. And this time we'll call this right. All right, so I'll turn that off. Let's look through what we have here. We have our base portrait. We made a closed eye version. Then we made a left looking version and a right looking version. Okay, we're ready to animate this. But before we do that, let's check in with the chat and see what people are saying. This is so fun. Yes, Fred, I'm a bit of a witch today. It's really fun. We are making magic here. That's so fun. So that's what Fred was saying. Good to see you here, Fred. Studio C says, I love this so much. Imaginarium Art Studio says, I had no idea this could be done. Oh, but I suppose you might be talking about something else. All right. Oh, and they say, I want to try this with one of my grands. That's perfect. That's like the perfect use for this, right? It would be so fun to do something like this. And you will not believe how easy it is to animate, which is what we are about to do right now. Let's head back to the desktop, and I'm going to blow your minds with how simple it is to animate this. In case you're wondering why I have this folder here called Decor, it's because I just was like, we got to do something with this blank frame here and this like wall space. So I did that. So I added a little text here that says Happy Haunts, and it has like a little haunted house. Of course, you can't see it well because it's obscured by the skull, but it's there. And then this thing I just generated with AI. What did I use for my prompt? I typed a prompt that said vintage marquee lights spelling boo. And I only typed 3 O's in my prompt here. You can see that. Vintage marquee lights spelling boo. But it added extra O's, which I guess well done, AI. That's nice. It used the space and took some liberties there. So you can see these are the other things that it came up with, which this was just not really, really, these were not great. These ones. Nope, not at all. But this one was like, I'll take it. So you never know. So I just generated that, and I just stuck some text and a little illustration here using the same techniques that we used when we put her in. So I just put a little text here and a little illustration. You can see I grouped them in a folder, and I added a layer mask to hide any bits that are behind the skull here. So you can see if I Alt or Option click, actually, now, yeah, I remember that I used Photoshop's quick selection tool to select the skull, and then I targeted the layer mask and filled in the skull with black. And that's how I got this perfect edge around there. So that is super. Okay, we're ready to animate this thing. Are you guys ready? We're ready. I'm ready. You're ready. We're all ready. Let's do it. Okay, we need to open Photoshop's timeline panel. Did you know there was a timeline panel? Yes, and it lives, I'm gonna close that folder and come back on here. All right, it lives under the window menu, like all of the panels. We're gonna choose window, and we're gonna choose timeline way down here. And when we do that, we get my already created animation. So I'm gonna get rid of that. We'll throw this in the trash because we want to start over, and we want to make this look like yours. Let's reset this. Nope. Convert, delete timeline. There we go. So this is what yours probably looks like, right? But yours probably says right here, it probably says create video timeline. So here are 2 things to point out. When you open your timeline, you get the choice of what type of animation you want to make, what type of timeline you want to work with. The choices are a video timeline and a frame animation. So if you know ahead of time that you want to output MP4, that's one way to do it. But our animation isn't going to work in a traditional video timeline. So we specifically want, in this case, to create a frame animation. And we'll see, I'm not sure if we can export the frame animation to MP4 or not. We'll find out. But that's what we want to create. That's the technique of the animation that we want, is a frame animation, not a video timeline. All right, so to get that, we need to click the little caret here, and then we're going to choose frame animation, which gives us the button. I don't know why they don't just have both buttons here. Got to pick your button, and then you got to click on it. So pick your button and click on it. And what happens is Photoshop creates a little version of your image as it is down here in the timeline. So it basically replicates the current state of our document down here in this frame. So we want to make sure that right now our document is set up so that we're just looking at the straight portrait. So we're not looking at the left or the right or the closed eyes. So we want to configure that over here in our layers panel so that that is what Photoshop puts in this frame. So basically, we're going to create a series of frames which sort of operate like, oh, now I'm losing the word for it. Like a, what's it called? Like a snapshot of like a version. You guys know. Someone will put it in the chat. What am I talking about? A comp, a layer comp. So it's basically in this frame, it's kind of like a little snapshot of the layers panel at this moment as it's currently configured. All right. So we have this version with just the straight portrait. Now, we're going to make another frame. So down here in the timeline panel, we're going to click the new frame button. We have a second frame. Now this frame, we want the eyes closed. So our animation will begin with our portrait just looking straight like a regular portrait. And now on the second frame, to get the eyes closed, we just want to come over to our layers panel and click to enable the closed eyes. That's it. Now our animation has two frames. The first one where they're open and the second one where they're closed. And you'll notice when you click on the frames, the layers panel will adjust however it is you set it in that frame. So we can click between them and see. We also have this little option down below to adjust the timing. So while we're here, we'll come back to this first one, but the second frame, while the eyes are closed, we don't want them to sit closed for a long time. We just want them to like blink, right? So down at the bottom, we see where it says 0 seconds. We can click this little caret and there's actually a preset. Oh, my face is on top of it. Let's move my face because it's in the way. Where can we move it? We can move it. Have to unlock it. All right, let's move my face. Forgot that it would be maybe in the way here. All right, so hopefully this helps. So down here where this little caret is, we can choose one of these preset times. And one of them is 0.2 seconds. And that's kind of a nice blink that's not too fast. Okay, so 0.2 seconds. That's good. And now let's make another new frame. So we'll click that new frame button. Now this time we'll turn off the blink and we'll turn on the looking left, or I guess it's this way, looking left. And let's set the timing for looking left to maybe 2 seconds. Okay. You see, this is how easy it is. Then we're going to make another new frame. And this time we'll turn off the left and we'll turn the blink back on. And again, we'll set the timing to 0.2 seconds. Then we'll duplicate that and we'll turn off the blink and turn on the right. And we'll set the timing for this to be 2 seconds. And then we'll add one more frame that will be another blink. And we'll set the timing to 0.2 seconds. Okay, so this first frame, if we click back to select that first frame, and we got to decide how long we want it to sit on that first frame before it starts animating. So all the other directional looks we've set for 2 seconds. So I'm going to choose the same thing here. I'm going to just say 2 seconds. So we've got 2 seconds looking forward. We'll click the second frame. That's a blink set to 0.2 seconds. The third frame is looking left for 2 seconds. The fourth frame is again a blink for 0.2 seconds. The fifth frame is looking to the right for 2 seconds. And the sixth frame is again a blink for 0.2 seconds. That's it, my friends. We just animated this. That's all there is to it. To see how it looks like, we're going to come down here. We're going to make sure that this is set to loop forever. So from this little drop down, we want to choose forever, and then we're going to hit play. And then our animation, oops, I stopped it. Our animation is going to sit. Did I not hit play? Play. It's going to sit for 2 seconds, blink, look to the side, blink to the other side, blink, and back to the front again. And that's it. This animation is so lightweight in terms of file size when we export it because it's just 6 frames. So it's really small. It's really simple. That's all there is to it. So when we're done and we're happy with how everything looks, we can hit stop. Now, one thing you have to be really careful of when you do this is if you want to make any changes to your layers, you got to make sure that you know what frame you're on. So do not even touch your timeline until you're really finalized with what you're doing in Photoshop, because if I start messing around with layers here, what's happening is I'm making those changes, but they're only going to exist on my currently selected frame. So it's really easy to like mess up and then suddenly you make changes and then your whole timeline gets whacked. But that said, when you do that, which will happen, it's also easy to delete the frames and just like rebuild it. So don't sweat it. How do we export this? Let's see if we can export to video. Oh, not from here. I was hoping we could, but we might be able to. I was going to see. We might be able to convert this to a video timeline, and then we could do MP4. So let's save this as a GIF first, and then we'll try that. Okay, so how do we save this as a GIF? There's a million different ways. My preferred method is to come to Photoshop's file menu, and we're going to choose Export, Save for Web Legacy. So File, Export, Save for Web Legacy, okay? What that is going to do is pop up this window here where we can really get a grip on what we're doing. So we can see our image, and I can zoom out by clicking down here. So we can look at our image. Here's where we choose the file format. So it'll probably default to PNG or JPEG. So you'll want to make sure you choose GIF. We could tweak all of these settings if we need to, but I'm just going to go with the default GIF settings for now. One thing that's nice is we can also resize it right here in this window, because depending what you're doing, you might not want a big, huge image. So like if I'm going to put this in like an email, like the blast that I made, I want to resize this to 800 pixels. And that will knock some weight off the file size for sure. So if we look now, we're seeing that this whole file is less than 300K. So that's pretty good. So that is when we drop it down to just 800 pixels. All right. So you want to make sure you're choosing GIF. My emojis keep popping up for whatever reason. You want to make sure you're choosing GIF and that we have it sized the way we want. And you also want to make sure that looping options are set to forever. And then it's tempting to click done, but don't, because all that does is kind of hold on to these settings and close the window, and you didn't actually save anything. So you do want to actually hit save and put it somewhere and then hit save. That's it. You made a GIF. Yay. So if we want to go check it out now, if I go to my desktop, just to prove to you that it's actually animated, here's my desktop. And if I hit my space bar on the Mac, I can preview it and you can see it's actually animating. Very cool, right? Okay, now for the question about making this as an MP4. Obviously, we'd want to save our work as a PSD in case we just destroy this right now. So I'll do that. I'll just update my saved file in case I destroy it. Let's see what happens if we go to the menu right here, this little burger menu for the timeline. If we click on that and we choose convert to video timeline, let's see if it's gonna, ooh, it did it. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad. So you can see that the timeline looks different. Don't panic. It's a whole different beast. But the good news is we built it as a frame animation and Photoshop did all the magic to make it do what we want. So we can just hit play and it's playing through and you can see that it is animating it. Yay! Now, if it's not looping for you for whatever reason, you might just need to change the setting here. So in the video timeline, if you click on the little cogwheel, you want to make sure that loop playback is enabled. And now, oh yeah, you can see the cogwheel. I'm not on top of it. Let me drag the timeline down. There's a lot going on here. Anyway, so click on that, make sure loop playback is on. That only affects what happens here in Photoshop. It's not going to loop your MP4. So that's the tricky part. Like a GIF will just automatically loop. The MP4 will play through and then you just have to hope wherever you're putting it will auto loop it. Or you could you could do some other work. We're not going to get into that here, but there are ways around it. Anyway, let's export this as an MP4 file. If we come now back to that timeline option, you'll notice something called render video. That's going to export this whole thing to MP4. So we're going to click on that and you want to give it a name. Let's put this on my desktop again. Okay. Here we would want to choose our size. So again, choose whatever makes sense. Here, there are some presets. I'm going to just, I guess, leave it. And we want it to include all the frames. Super. We'll click render. And it's going to render it out. That's it. Let's have a peek at our desktop. Just see it. Here it is. And it's playing through. There it's blinking, blinking. And then it ends here on the blink, right? Because that's where the animation ends. And if you loop it, on whatever platform, like I think they kind of auto loop, right? Like on Instagram, I think that the MP4s generally loop. So it would just continue. That is awesome. So I hope you guys found this helpful. Let's pop into the chat and let me see if you have burning questions or if I just jumped, I don't know, off the rails here. Dave Clayton. Hi, Dave. Spooky side eye. It is, right? I love it. Deborah says, I might try this for my cats next year. That's a fun idea. That would be spooky. MTM says, wow. I'm so happy that we could wow you. Lori says, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And Deborah says, she loves this. It seems complicated, but, oh, thank you. But I explained it well enough. I hope so. That's what we're here for, right? It should hopefully be simple. This is great. I don't know if this will fit on the broadcast. Yeah, that you're glad that I explained this in layperson's terms and that you can understand this. That is what we're here for, right? Like, I love that this technique has such a wow factor, but it's like pretty simple and you can just do it with a portrait. You don't need any extra bits or bobs. Like you can take just a selfie even and you could animate it. And that is so fun. Oh, yeah, we need to add sound effects. That's a good option for leveling this up. That is very fun. Yeah, there's some seconds to that. Oh, Brad is asking that this was so fun. Where else can we see Creative Pro events? That's a great question, Brad. You can find all of Creative Pro's events at creativepro.com/events. And actually, it's fun that we had some AI bits in here, right? Some gen fill and stuff. We have at Creative Pro, we have a whole 2-day event dedicated to working with AI as a designer, as a creative. And that is coming up in December, on December 9th and 10th. So you can learn more about that at creativepro.com/events. That is super. This is so fun. Studio C says ideas are spinning in their head. Colleen says lots of new things were learned today and the creative juices are playing. T Lily Images says they can't wait to play now. Now, yes, Joe says, "Oh, there is a big file difference." Yes. So that is the MP4 was 10, I guess 10 megabytes. I didn't look actually, so glad you pointed that out. That is because I also did not downsize the MP4. So that's not a fair comparison, is it? So we downsized the GIF to be 800 pixels wide, but the MP4, I don't know, I was lazy. I didn't resize it. So the MP4 was 2500 pixels. So that's part of the size difference. We could pop in here and do that real quick. Let me get back to my desktop for you. My shortcuts aren't working, so I'm gotta pop in here and switch it back myself. All right. So to be fair, let's downsize this to 800. And now let's re-export this as an MP4. So we'll go back to render video and we'll just leave everything the same. We'll replace it. And now if we go to Finder, oops, and we look at our desktop, now it's 1.2 megs. So we've got 1.2 megs compared to less than 300K. So yeah, the video will be bigger because it's got, 24 or 30 or however many frames per second. So that's another way you could tweak this. You could drop the frame rate probably way down in the settings when you render this out. That would be another way you could save some of that file size. But yeah, otherwise it will be bigger for sure. What else? This is great. Oh, Erica. Erica says, now to make a twinkly Christmas tree or a turkey with fluttering tail feathers. Those are fun ideas. We may have to do a live on that, Erica. Would you like to guest host that? That's a possibility. Or I can make up something too, but that sounds really fun. Oh, Lori. Oh, Lori says, I've often been baffled by things and Khara always makes me feel less silly. Well, hey, if anyone is silly and baffly, it's me too. So you're not alone, Lori. I'm right with you. But this is so fun, everybody. So I'm just so glad that you could all join me here today. I hope you had fun with this. Don't forget to check out creativepro.com and creativepro.com/events for all of our fun, good things we do to help everyone out in this industry. Erica says she'd have to teach it in InDesign. Hey, that would be really interesting. Who knows? So this is great. And you guys can always let us know too in the comments for the video, because I think the chat will I think it disappears when you rewatch the live. I don't recall. But you can always drop in a comment and let us know, what else you want to see here, or what else you want me to tackle in another live stream. I'm always happy to take requests, or you can shoot me an email, whatever works for you. But yeah, I think that is about it for today. So happy Halloween to everybody. Be safe out there. Have a good time. And as always, happy Photoshopping. I will see you next time.